Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Stephen. Welcome to another episode of Real Estate on Record. We're talking new capital gains potential, which could be a great incentive for Canadian investors to keep the money in Canada
If Pierre wins.
if Pure wins.
Are
That's the big question.
we going to make part three on this episode?
No, no.
All right, go,
For
buddy. Go. Tell it. Let's talk about it. Positivity.
positivity. Well, so everyone has different investment goals, and some people feel comfortable, obviously, with keeping it local in Canada. So for those people, it could potentially help out in to a certain degree. Like, so from what I understand, it's going to be something similar along what the US has with 1031 exchange. And maybe you could explain better, but from what I understand, it's basically like if you have an investment property, let's say for an example, or a business, but let's say you have an investment property, it's like a single family unit, and you sell that investment property and you're going to repurchase another, let's say a duplex or a triplex. You're upsizing your investment and keeping it in the country. Obviously, there's some rules where you have to be done in a certain period of time, and all that, but you're basically capital gain deferred. Your capital gains deferred, so you don't have to pay your capital gain, which is going to incentivize investors to keep like upsizing their investments, right? Versus forever in Canada, we've never had this. So every time someone sells an investment property, they're paying a huge capital gain, which again, like that's why there's no movement, I would say, on that end of things.
On the
Like
bigger stuff. Yeah, like warehouses and stuff like that.
yes, because it doesn't make sense for the owners to sell, right? And it doesn't keep money moving. Like I think that's the biggest thing that we need to do in any economy, is to keep money moving, right? And to incentivize people to move that money. If you're not incentivizing them, well, it's just going to stay stagnant there.
But could you imagine like that's like even a why was this never done in the past? Like it doesn't even make sense why it's coming up now. Like think about it. Like you want money to keep moving to build wealth. Like the wealthier your citizens are, the more money your country is going to be making. You'll be pulling more taxation. I don't understand what the purpose is. So the United States has that clearly, like the 1031 switch they call, and that's amazing. So let's say mom and pop has two townhouses. Mom and pop landlord has two townhouses. They flip those two townhouses, they roll that money up, and they buy a fourplex. I don't know, like a small little building. And then 5 years later, they say, screw it, we want to go for a strip plaza. So they sell that, they make their money, they buy a strip plaza, maybe a different state, maybe a different town, so they can kind of use all that money, and it actually puts a deposit on their strip plaza rather. And then the strip plaza turns into a shopping center. I'm just saying, for like worst case, like best case scenario. Like that makes, look how much what's happening there. Like the houses now that the mom and pop held as investment properties gets released to the market, where now if they're first time home buyer, they get to move into that if they want, or maybe it's another investor that holds on to it. But it'd probably go back to the market where a family can move into. Then the fourplex gets sold to another investor that gets to that point. It's like bringing everybody up on the ladder. It's just it's crazy how they're going to do this, and it's obviously it has to go through like Congress, Senate, and all the stuff that Canada has to do in order to get that produced as a bill, but or make it law. But still, it makes total sense for the future. But how long is that going to take for that actually to amplify and make sense of everything?
And does it happen? I don't know, but it's like you said, you always say they're going that snowball, right? Like every time you're upsizing, your snowball is getting bigger and bigger. Just in Canada, your snowball gets a little bit bigger, but then the government takes a chunk out every time you make that move, right? So you can actually compound it as big
No.
as in the US with this 1031 exchange. So it'll definitely help investors if this comes into play, and I think it'll help get investment properties moving for sure.
I watched some of those big investors, like not big, they're big. They're worth like $500-600 million. They're on YouTube. I watch it. It's Life for Sale. It's pretty good. I think this big Jewish guy that from a New Yorker, and he moved to Florida. He's actually here in Tampa, I believe, but he buys all these strip plazas and stuff. And it's amazing how it's like, yeah, we just sold this. We got to spend $75 million by the end of the year. It's just like they're forced to like go look for other deals. So they literally got a little private jet. They fly to different parts of Florida and the U.S. and try to find something that makes sense. but they're forced to spend $75 million,
Yeah,
100%.
because you have a certain period of time, right, from
Yeah.
when you sell.
How
Yeah.
beautiful is that though? But that's how you move money. It's not like you got 5 years to think about it. You got a calendar year or during that year. I don't know how exactly if it's a year from when you sold or in that calendar year, but it's like I remember I think at the end of the season, it was like they gotta get this out. We're gonna get tax on it.
Yeah, I think it's 4 to 6 months, like that, to use that.
Use it.
Yeah, from what I looked at back in the day. Um, but yeah, that's why he's forced to do it, because if he doesn't, then he's paying that capital gain, right?
Let's look it up. Let's try to see what that is, that law. I mean, so you talk more about this Canadian one, this version of the 1031.
So Pierre is basically, as part of his platform, is talking about bringing something similar into Canada. To obviously he's trying to get this to help him win the election, but ultimately for any small investor, it's going to be fantastic. Any investor, right? Like it's going to incentivize you. Even think of it for think of like those older guys, like those baby boomers that have like, who knows, I know a couple guys that have like 20 properties, right? And they're not going to sell them because they paid like 100 grand for these freaking properties worth like, I don't know, 1.2, 1.3 million. So they can't sell them. But now if they were able to like sell those 20 properties, what they're like, and bring it into like for their family, like they can go buy buildings, you know what I mean, like for the next generation. So and hopefully defer that tax, right? If they do it properly. So it will help to get especially like these older investors. And think of it, all these guys, these older guys that bought like these single family houses, how many houses are rentals right now that'll put like, if you haven't, well, we have obviously an influx of supply, but if these investors took out these single family residents into their portfolio and put it into a commercial sector, you're going to unlock a shit ton of single family residential that's going to hopefully potentially help price like for entry level buyers, right? But we'll see. I think it'll
Who's
get
he
things
speaking
moving.
to as a voter? I think there's 90% of the people really don't give a shit about this. Only like 10% of us.
It's gonna be investors.
Is that the voter he should be looking at, like as a strategic point? Is that the investor he needs to be looking at? He needs to be looking at the people that's going to get him voted in. He's going to have to swing. This is again, the conservatives. I love them, but they suck at politics, like getting elected. They suck. Is this, and that's the sticking point. So I heard the same thing. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. But for me,
For
it's
me,
amazing. You think like family members that really give a shit about that? We're
yeah,
such a
for
small
people that don't invest, they go to work, collect their 9 to 5, and
Yeah, no, I don't give a shit. But I'm
put
saying
it in a
majority of the
mutual
voter.
fund.
So you may never see that because he's not focusing on the what he needs to be focused on to get those voters over. I think right now for Pierre to get elected, he's got to focus on. I mean, they're both doing it, both liberal and conservatives, painting um, America as this terrible place, and that they're going to fight them, and they're going to be very strong on the trade and all that stuff. So I think that's going to help both parties right now, because that's what the Canadian people are looking at, right? They're terrified of their future. You're right. It's 180 days, Mike.
There you go.
Must close in 6 months. So you have to like find a deal and close.
Here's the deal with an and close.
Yeah.
Oh
You
shit.
must close on the replacement property within 180 days of selling the relinquished property. So I guess when you got it listed or whatever, you have an opportunity to kind of like start picking what you want, but you got to close. You got to write the contract and close. Imagine going through environmentals and everything. Like, especially if you're moving that guy $75 million, you're going to do environmentals, I would imagine, on a plaza. No, maybe not. Maybe you don't need to. I don't know. It's a lot of money, right?
You'd almost need to find something that has it all done already.
So that's probably what the shopping plazas do already, because they know the 1031's coming up. So they probably get everything I'm just saying for this guy's example, they'll get everything like you just pick up and go. Environmentals are all done and everything. Interesting. Yeah, interesting.
And for the most part, if everything's lined up, you should be able to close pretty quickly.